For the website, thank you.
Yeah, that's a good.
I got enough pictures.
They show that there's. Yes. For people in front. And. Somebody who's one of the coach of the next season. And then talk about.
There it is.
That's. Your voice. Right now, three. But I'm not here. No sense. Yeah, one more time. 1, 2, 3.
Can we get one with the boss?
Oh. Okay. Thank you. Okay.
The wind just picked up in the last hour.
Anytime you're ready.
We're ready. Ready to roll.
Roll call. Josh,
Here.
Tyler,
Here.
Jeff,
Yep.
Melissa.
Yep.
And Andrew.
Yep.
Do we have an approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Ayes?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Any nays? Election of the board president. Do you have a nomination? A motion for nomination?
Move Andrew Rickless, president.
Second.
Any more nominations? Are they ceased? Nominations to date? And we have Andrew on the table. We'll vote ayes.
Aye.
And any nays? Good. Election of vice president. Do we have a motion for nomination?
Josh.
Is there a second?
Second that.
And a vote on that. Any ayes? All ayes?
Oh,
Aye. Both ayes.
Any nays? We have Andrew to continue as board president and elected Josh to the vice president. And we need to do oath right now for the board president and vice president. Do you solemnly swear to support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Iowa, and will you faithfully and impartially, to the best of your ability, discharge all the duties of the office of board president and vice president in the Gilbert Community School District as now or hereafter required by law? Jeff and Andrew?
I will.
Andrew, you want to conduct?
Yep, thank you very much, Gail. First agenda item here is we need to appoint a board secretary. Or secretary treasurer? Do we have a motion on that?
Nothing, Gail Hopkins.
Tyler nominates Gail Hopkins. Do we have a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
I,
Opposed? Gail Hopkins, secretary treasurer.
Congratulations.
Job, Gail. All right, now we need to select the meeting date and time and location. Right now, we currently have it at the intermediate building here in the library on the second Monday of each month at 6 o'clock.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
I,
Opposed? Next item is appointing Ames Trib as our official publication for the board.
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
Got Josh in a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Next item, we have to appoint Allers Law Firm as our legal counsel. We have a motion on that.
I'll do it again.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Now, committee assignments. You'll see on the agenda there what we currently have for our committees. We've got Jeff and myself on the Finance Negotiations Committee. We've got Tyler and Jeff on the Facilities Grounds Committee, and we have Josh and Melissa on the Policy Committee. Do we want to make any changes or adjustments to that? Is everybody's thoughts? You okay with it?
good.
Good. Josh, you good with it?
Yeah.
All right, then we will just leave as is. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, committee assignments done, and we are back to our regular meeting here. Gail, do we have anyone for public forum?
Nothing.
Anyone here for public forum?
You guys here for? Right.
Yeah.
So.
Awesome. All right, announcement celebrations, Christine.
Okay, there are so many celebrations. Hopefully you're following along with all of the ways that we're communicating with our families in our community. Too many celebrations to mention here this evening, but one that I really wanted to highlight is I just wanted to thank, we had the Iowa State Coaches Wives has a program, and we had some families in need of Thanksgiving meals, and they brought in meals for those families in need. The entire meal, and right down to the pie, the stuffing, the turkey, all the way to the pie and every piece in between. So we're just really grateful for that partnership, and I know that our families are as well. And just wanted to mention a shout out and a thank you to Mel Wooden, who works with our families, because she organizes all that and puts it all together, and then we help our families come and pick it up, and then she also, our families reach out to her who might be in need, and it's just a wonderful program. And I wanted to thank Mel, thank our Iowa State Coaches Wives program, and you know, just another way that our community gives back to our families. So very grateful for the program.
Nothing else. I was not able to attend the choir band concert, but I heard really good things about that as well. I think it was last week.
It was last week. It was absolutely wonderful. I mean, that's the thing, is just there's so many wonderful things. We had choir and band last Friday night. We had mega night, so we had multiple sports going on in multiple buildings. We have a choir concert, or a band tonight over at the high school with the 5th and 6th graders. Is that right? Sorry, I have to keep it all straight. And tomorrow's the 7th and 8th graders, and so concerts going on tomorrow night, and then we have pretty much sports going on all week. And so our kids are very, very involved in lots of different ways, and we're just happy to have all of our families come out and celebrate. So good things.
Did I see the first girls wrestling home meet is this Thursday, I think?
That's right. That's right.
That's the first time for them. right?
Yes, and we have, I believe the last time I checked, we had 19 or 20 girls on our wrestling team, so that's a big celebration. We're super excited to have them, and you know, and then Friday night we had basketball going on in this building, basketball going on at the high school, then we had the mini cheer clinic going on, we had the dance team performing over there. I mean, so just a lot of wonderful things. And one of the things, my takeaways for band and or choir was, you have to remember that they've only been working together for a short time, you know, since August, and to see them perform these incredible pieces is just wonderful. And also the accompanist, is that how you say it? Amanda Jennings is phenomenal, and I just could not get over. She's you know, helping them, and it's not just a little song, it's pretty major and does an incredible job. So many different ways the community is involved. Grateful to the Fine Art Booster, to also our sports boosters, and all of our coaches and teachers and kids and parents that come out for those events. So big celebration.
Good work, Gilbert. Moving along, admin reports. Christine, you have some updates there.
This is just a reminder that our annual facility will be closed through December 22nd and through the 26th to recognition of the holiday. So just reminding everyone of that. It's a shutdown. Wanted to mention that. Then moving on, this is a new piece. I wanted to make sure everyone is aware. We are sending a letter hopefully tomorrow home to our parents to notify them. But there's been a recommendation made, I'm going to try to get this exactly right, by the Iowa High School Athletic Association Board of changing our classification related, not just ours, but changing classification of football, of what group you're in. So we currently are in 3A, and so what they are recommending that they create a new formula that you take your enrollment and then you add in the socioeconomic status, which turns it into a formula and changes, perhaps it could possibly change what class you play in, what your classification is. And we believe, this just came out last week, and we believe it will impact Gilbert, and it could potentially roll us into a 4A conference. Which I'm not sure that's best for our students, our student athletes. I'm very concerned about that, as well as Coach Lund. We've had extensive conversations. Ian Smith, our athletic director, of course, Troy's been a part of that conversation. So that will be going to superintendents, and we'll be taking a vote on that. At this point, based on the information that I have, I'll be voting no. It's not something that's in the best interest of our kids. It may be in other districts, but in Gilbert, it is not. And what that entails is that because our free and reduced lunch numbers are significantly lower than other districts, that might move them into 3A and then would bump us up to 4A. And I'm not sure that's best for our kids. It could involve longer travel time, could involve different programs, and we're just kind of getting used to being in the 3A and still working through that. So I wanted everyone to be aware of that that's happening. What'll happen is once the vote takes place, if 60% of the votes submitted are for this, then it'll go to the Board of Education, the State Board of Education, and then they will finalize it, and it will go into effect next fall. So it is concerning. I have shared my concerns with the association, and we'll see where it takes us. But I wanted everyone to be aware of that because it will impact our program.
This is originating from Boone, right? The
Yes, the
Yes.
IHS.
IH.
Yes.
So the Board of Education doesn't necessarily back it.
The Board of Education, typically when things get to that level, it's often sort of a rubber stamp of what's been done.
Okay.
So if more than likely, if it's approved by those of us that are voting, which we start on Thursday, I think the voting's open for a week, then I would anticipate.
It's probably gonna pass.
Yes.
The way it sounds.
I understand from the video, they shared a video with all the superintendents that this is a model similar to other states, like Minnesota has a model similar to this. And so maybe it helps for some districts, but for our student athletes, I'm not sure it's the best thing, which is why I voiced my concern about it.
Has there been discussion of other sports following suit or past football?
That's sort of the rumor that's out there. Right now, they're gonna start with football, but then the rumor is that's kind of the rumor fear is that then it will go into other sports. It's just right now they're gonna start with this one. So. But you'll see that hopefully tomorrow or the next day. We just want parents to be aware of why it's happening, where it's coming from, and then also the way I'll be voting to be really
And
transparent.
this would take place next.
This coming
season.
fall, which is why they're trying to push the vote and get it done right away. It is quick. Okay, that leads us, if I may, just jump right into the next piece. We have a report on esports and computer science. And Carrie Clark and Troy Stout and a few other friends are here to help share that information. So come on up and introduce yourselves and
Why don't you guys start with sports?
and tell us what you want us to know. Thank you.
You can sit right at the hot table right here. Right?
That's right.
What are we doing?
You're doing great.
I like it. Bye. All right, so
You want to
Yeah.
introduce yourself also? Before you start, please.
All right, so I'm Troy Stout. About a year ago, we were here basically talking about implementing an esports program. Mr. Vanderpool was with me at the time. And we just want to take a few minutes of your time just to kind of give you an update on how that has progressed since we introduced it about a year ago and kind of where things stand. So after that, I think it was a November board meeting last year. We kind of took right off and ended up purchasing some equipment. Began with 3 Nintendo Switches and some TVs that Mr. Vanderpool gave up a day to kind of help me set up. Was interested in helping, and so he helped me put together these TV cards from Amazon. We got everything set up. And then about mid-January, we started playing our first esports season, which was Mario Kart last year, through the Iowa High School Esports Association. And last year, about a dozen kids came and participated consistently through that. Technically, the spring season is when that went from March until the end of the school year. And in that time frame, we were able to make the end of the season playoffs, and then we actually lost out at making the championship for the state on a tiebreaker that nobody knew the rules about until it happened. And so that was kind of an interesting deal, but no, we had a blast. We had a really good kickoff to the season and or to the whole program really. And then into the summer and fall, we had some things go on, and this is you guys want to introduce yourselves while we have a chance?
I'm Jason Chung.
I'm David Rocker.
Yeah, and so I had the opportunity to help volunteer coach in the Mario Kart season in that first season, and then started working with the teams, coaching the teams in the fall. Over the summer, between seasons, we took a couple of the kids to Atumwa for a tournament there, where teams from all over the state ended up gathering, and we had a pretty good showing. We played some really tough matches, but the kids were getting some out of season experience prior to our Super Smash Brothers season this fall. And then this fall we had about 25 kids come, and it was amazing. It was a lot more than what I knew to expect. 12 in the spring and then over doubles that in the fall. And it was a lot of fun just seeing everybody who showed up and consistently put in time and effort, and all the kids collaborating on how to improve their skills. All the teamwork was fantastic. It was really exciting to see. And then the season progressed and we were doing really well. We ended up making it to the playoffs in that season as well. And we went to the live event. That was our first major live event in West Des Moines at the Recplex down there. And again, it was just a phenomenal time. We had 10 or so kids there, all playing and having a good time and getting to see other teams face to face. And it was just an amazing experience for everybody there. There were nearly 50 schools, and just in that first season being being able to go there was really awesome.
So we're just starting our winter season now. Mr. Chung and I are kind of splitting duties for the winter season, since I'm done with cross country, and then we're kind of taking that on. It's Rocket League is the game that we're playing in the winter here. This is the first game that we're going to be playing on PC. So right now we're using Mrs. Hale's Business Lab. Hoping to get some actual gaming machines. There's a grant out there that we're hoping to take advantage of to get some gaming computers that would put us at a little bit better competitive advantage against some of the other schools. The computers we have now are functional, but it's a little bit different. It's kind of like maybe playing with wooden bats instead of metal bats in the baseball analogy. It's they're a little bit slower than some of the other machines, but they do the job. And then we're also starting to stream some of our games online. We took a crack at that for the first time last week, and I screwed some things up. But that's typically how it goes when I run a stream. So no, we're getting there, and we're really excited about it. And so then I also brought along David Hindrocker here to kind of give a little bit of our student perspective. So
I wrote some stuff down on my phone, so I'll just look at that here real quick. But two things that I want to mention and talk about is why I joined at the very beginning. I was actually at the first ever meeting for this, which I can be the guy that was like, oh, I was here before it was cool. So I remember showing up, and in the auditorium of the high school, we had Mr. Stout giving a presentation about Mario Kart, and I was like, just kind of shocked at the amount of people that were there, even though it wasn't like anything crazy. It wasn't like 100 people. It was like 15 people. So it just kind of showed me that there was way more people than I expected. And that got me really excited for the upcoming season, because I actually went home and started like practicing Mario Kart like as soon as I got home, because I was just super excited to start. And I found out that it started in a month, and I couldn't wait at all. And I remember going to the first practice and everything, and I joined and went through the whole season because I felt like it was a place where I could just be good at something, and I could like show people my skill and have fun while I did it. It was a part of like, I could be a part of a community of people that share something that I also really enjoy. Like I've been playing Mario Kart for like, I've been playing video games my whole life. Like I had a Nintendo 64, I had a Wii when I was like 10 years old and stuff. And the other thing that I wanted to talk about is some of the like fun things that we did over the last Smash Bros season. I didn't write anything down for this because I just have so many like good memories. It's not like it was only like a month ago that we stopped playing, but like it was super fun. Like there was like a group of like 8 or so guys that were like really good, and that I could play against consistently, and like it was something that you could do with the rest of the varsity team, that it just never got old. Like no game that you played was ever the same. Like it was always something new and something that I just looked forward. Like I would get out of school and look forward to esports after school every day on days and stuff. And going to state was wild. Like going to state was crazy. There were so many other schools there that had super good players, and playing against them was just an honor. Like it was our first outing as a Smash Bros team, and it was our first appearance at state, which is something I'm really proud of, that we had a team that was good enough even on our first like official season to like go all the way to state. But yeah, that was just my season. I'm looking forward to Mario Kart this spring. I've already started playing again. And I wish I could stick around for another fall season of Smash Bros. And unfortunately, I'm graduating this year.
But you can always plug.
Heard your numbers yet.
We're keeping those numbers up.
Yeah, that's kind of all I got.
Awesome. Thanks, David.
Yeah, okay.
And so I just want to thank you guys for the support. You know, we've gotten things off the ground from pretty humble beginnings, and we've already grown it quite a bit. The goal is to continue to grow it and offer more titles. I think if you look at the number of different students that we've reached already. We're somewhere probably between 35 and 40 kids that exceeds what my expectations were early on. And so I really had no clue what I was getting into when we started it. And then also to continue to connect with colleges and scholarships. That's kind of a secondary thing. The biggest thing is to provide a community for kids that you know, maybe don't have other things that they're into as much. And we're definitely I think hitting that quite a bit with the kids that we've got. And so
I also just want to add, like, it is an incredibly diverse group of people that we have as well. You know, when we first started, I was like, okay, it's probably just going to be like a bunch of guys just sitting around playing video games. No, we've had, you know, girls come out, especially in the last season. We had quite a few that, you know, were there consistently, and again, just, you know, in with the mix and having a good time, and, you know, all different groups and social groups at the school just coming together and playing, practicing, and build, like I said, building that community. And it's been fantastic. It's been the highlight of my year, honestly.
Yeah, me too.
So how many kids you got out?
From season to season, it's very the fall season had the most with 25. Right now for Rocket League, we're right at about a dozen that are doing that one. So yeah, it's varied a little bit from season to season, but
Troy, are you guys tied to the Boosters Club at all for support? Is that, or is that a separate deal?
so far, I think a lot of our funding has come from the foundation.
Okay.
Ian though has been, and Tim last year too, if there was something that I needed, like he puts us on the schedule for like things that are going on for the week for the sports and stuff like that. We did get jerseys. I didn't mention that, but we got esports jerseys this last fall too, which was super cool. And I know
They're not as cool as the bowling jerseys, and I'll just tell you that, probably, those are pretty cool.
So yeah, he's been supportive of that.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't think we've gone directly to the boosters for
Yeah, I just didn't
much,
know.
but
So when you talk
if they're
about.
willing to give us money, we take it.
But we can talk about equipment, stuff like that. I mean, is the equipment, you know, equal to the people that are winning these states? Do they have the best equipment? I mean.
I mean, I think not necessarily the best equipment, but competitive equipment might be a better way to put it. You know, right now, like again, like the computers that we have do work, but you know.
So what's a competitive, and I don't know them, but what's competitive equipment looking like costs wise?
Probably somewhere between $1,500 and $2,000 a machine.
Per machine? And how many would you need then?
At least enough to field a team. So I mean, I'm looking at
You gotta help me out.
a dozen to 20, somewhere around on that. Ideally, it would probably, I mean, to grow it right now, the minimum would probably honestly be 14, because we actually hop on and practice with them too. So you know, that would be probably the absolute minimum, and then a lab full of 20, 25 would be ideal as we
You have a place for all this stuff?
right now we're using the business lab that Vicky Hales has upstairs. So in the high school.
Can those computers be used for other things like CAD drafting, architecture type stuff? But
Yeah.
it requires kind of a higher powered, you know, processing.
Yeah, definitely could be. And that's kind of the plan when we the grant that we applied for kind of ties it into computer science, but you could use it beyond there as well. So
Can you talk a little bit more about just the college connection and kind of, you know, what are the next, I would assume there's probably scholarships out there now for some of this stuff.
yeah, even in Iowa, community colleges and some of your D3 colleges in particular are using it as recruitment tools for their computer science programs in particular, but other programs as well. But computer science is kind of the big one. But yeah, I forget the exact number, but I think it's in the 20s now of schools in the state that offer some sort of benefit, and some of them are like really like comparable to athletic scholarships, like almost.
Did you guys go on a visit?
We did. We went to the
Oh,
Marshalltown Community College with the Super Smash Brothers team. Everybody was along for that, and we they brought somebody to our school, to the high school, to come and talk about their program. They actually have a degree, right, I believe, in esports
Management.
yeah, esports management, and I think something in shoutcasting, and yeah, they came and talked to us, and then we went and visited there as well. And yeah, it was That's show the kids that this is something they can continue doing outside of just high school.
Thank you.
So one other question, do you see SS Tricky coming in the future, so I can come down and play with you guys?
It's a good game, but I don't know if it's coming.
Okay, all right, just checking, that's the only one I know.
You got Commodore 64, they're harder to find.
Easy now.
Yeah. I just want to thank you so much.
Yeah,
You know, they came up with this about esports and we all sat down together and Mr. Vanderpool, of course, supporting them from the very beginning, and they've just taken it and the kids are enjoying it, which is awesome. And to see their leadership, Jason and Troy, and the leadership that they bring to this, you know, sport for our kids, and it's wonderful. So I'm very grateful to both of them and I look forward to how it continues to grow. So thank you for what you guys are doing. So.
Thank all of you.
thank you guys.
Good job, David. Got it.
And now we'll hear from Carrie Clark about CSI, also known as computer science.
Or you could think about, what is the other, I can't even think what else that stands for. All right, so CSI, that, we have named that term through teacher leadership. So Gail, you want to go to that first slide? Thank you. So computer science is the operating system for all innovation. A lot of times when we think of computer science, we think of a laptop, or we, think of the hardware that has to go with that, the software that has to go with that. But when we're looking at computer science educational wise, there is a lot more to it. So the state had, on the next slide, the state, this is how it is defined as understanding how and why technologies work, exploring whether and how technology could solve real world problems, investigating procedures, creating solutions, and learning about computing systems, programming data networks, and the effects on society and the individual. It is learning to create new technologies rather than simply using them. If we think about the students that we have now in school and how they have seen how technology looks to them, I'm looking at Melissa just because, you've been out of school for a while, but even thinking about what technology was like when you were in school is very different than what technology is now. And it's just rolling over faster and faster and faster. I'm really not going to say what technology looked like when I was in school because it's not going to do that, but.
Did you do the tabs? Did you have the punch? No.
I'm not saying, I'm pleading the fifth there. All right, so on our next slide, it goes into the engineering design process. And what this does is it really breaks down that definition that we just talked about. So what do we want kids to do? We want them to ask. We want them to think of what is the problem? What is the problem? How have others approached it? So we're not reinventing the wheel. So everybody's reinventing the next, the same problem. And then what are the constraints that we have with that? So then the next piece is, okay, what can you imagine? How could we solve this problem? Really thinking outside the box, then doing some planning, then creating, and then improving. And that improving piece is that reflective piece. The great thing about the engineering design process is that also fits in with what we're doing in science and social studies. We have inquiry standards, and we have science standards. We also have mathematical practices in math, which all relate very similarly to what we're talking about here. What we want to do is we want to tear walls down for kids so that we're not just thinking about how do I solve a problem in math? How do I solve a problem in science? How do we solve problems in general in the world that we live in? We can't, that's one of the jobs that we have as educators, is helping kids see and make those connections across content areas or problems that kids might see and face that they're trying to find solutions to, that we can think outside the box on that. So on the next slide, this is the computer science journey that the state has given us, that where we've kind of been and where we're going. So in where we started, TLS started in, which is our teacher leadership system. That, I think the first year was 2014-15. So then in 2016-17, what we did is we added a tech innovator position through TLS, which is a position that is that person is 100% in the classroom. They're not doing but they're doing their classroom work, and then they do this. And Troy has been in that role numerous different times, and that role is just like, we know we're trying to solve a problem. At that point, it was really about you guys did tech cafes, which would be inviting teachers in to see how programs work. How could you use this program? How could maybe using how do you use technology in the classroom? That's how it started. Well, now we've moved into it, and now that looks a little bit different, and that has now turned into, which I'll get to in 2022, our CSI team. So then in 2017, Senate File 274 set the goal for computer science instruction by 2019, and that was that we had to have some instruction in that. All districts did, and then they also established state computer science standards. In 2020, there was House File 2629, which adds onto the Senate file, and their high schools must offer at least one semester of computer science by July of 2022, which we are already doing. We have to have in the middle school computer science in 7th or 8th grade by July 2023, and we have to have in elementary K5, somewhere in K5, we have to have at least one grade by 2023 that is teaching to the computer science standards. Now, Troy wears multiple hats, middle school and high school. So he's going to be able to speak to what are we doing right now to meet that goal, because we are meeting that goal.
Yeah, so back in, I guess it would have been around that time, 2019, I was approached about an opportunity to go and take some courses through UNI that was essentially for an endorsement program for computer science. And so I took advantage of that opportunity and spent the next year and a half going through their endorsement program. And then it would have been wrapping up about the time that it. And then that next fall, we launched our first high school class, which is computer science principles. And that's a pretty typical course that a lot of schools offer. There are different companies that offer a version of it, but code.org has been probably the most famous and most used one in the country. And I did an additional training directly through them that went through their curriculum, and we implemented that. And this will be our third year of teaching that course at the high school level. And we've had, last year we actually offered it as an AP. There's an AP component to that where the curriculum is designed to prepare you for the AP exam that you can take for computer science principles at the end of the year. And so last year we had our first group that took the exam at the end of the year. We had 4 students that took the exam, and 3 of them scored the highest that you can score, 5 out of 5, I think that is. And I was actually really quite happy. I was very nervous going into it because I've never done AP before. And so I was really happy with the results with that. And then this year we have about twice that many that are signed up to take the exam at the end of the year as well. So, and
kids can take that course and they don't have to take it.
Exactly.
That's their choice to take that and that AP exam.
Yeah. But
to have the students score that high the first time around is actually very good.
Yeah.
They're hard exams. So that's where we are, where we were 2020. And now what we have done is we've created what we call our computer science implementation team. And once again, that is where we were with Tech Innovators through teacher leadership. We've just transformed that into what we call a computer science implementation team member, which Troy is also a member of that. And one of the things that districts are required to do is to complete our computer science plan. So that's something we've done. What we have on our CSI team is we have 2 teacher reps from each building. Instructional coaches are part of that as well. I'm part of that. And then we also, I bring those same things when we are meeting with principals and Dr. Trujillo about kind of where we are, what we'd like to see. So the first thing we had to do was we had to put our plan together. So it's linked in. I think you can go to that slide. Oh no. Oh, and there's our team right there. So there's our 18 members that are through TLS. And so it's, I mean, it's amazing. We've got a kindergarten teacher as part of that. And then we've got our person that's teaching an AP computer science course. And the great thing is everybody has great things that they're bringing to that table. When you look at, this is the K-12 computer science framework. Very light reading if anybody's interested in reading this book. But what we do is we have gone down with Heartland and they put some classes together or just some workshops together that we did to put our plan together, and it's linked in the slideshow for you. So what we did is we kind of said we had to rate ourselves of where we feel we are right now, where we would like to be, and then where we are right now, what are the steps we need to take to get ideally where we want to be. It's important to know that the computer science standards, which are pretty, I mean, they're pretty thick. It's this whole packet right here. But what they've done is you can break it down kind of in grade spans. So you look at K2, and it's wonderful because they're broken up by our buildings. K2, 3, 5, 6, 8, and then our high school standards. And they have, it's not, you look at it, it's broken into computing systems, networks and the internet, data and analysis, algorithms and programming, and then impacts of computing. So in there would be some digital citizenship would be part of that, cybersecurity would be part of that, hardware, software, but then a lot of those things do not have to be, you can be unplugged when you're doing those. So part of the work that this team is doing is looking at what are things, for example, when we're in math, when you're talking about an algorithm, solving a math problem, that's what a computer does. A computer uses an algorithm to solve a problem. And what we are talking about is what's that vocabulary that we need to use across the board so we can help kids make that connection, that you don't think, oh my gosh, computer science is about programming. I don't even understand that. Well, actually, you're doing those things. We have, for example, we've got B-bots, we've got these little indie cars that our elementary and intermediate kids are using. And it's the beginning of coding, how you put this colored path out and how, ooh, I got to figure out when I put the purple one down, that makes the car spin. But when I put the pink color down, that's when the car stops. So how do I get the car from point A to point B using the color path that I'm given? That's one example. So we're in the infancy of our plan. At our last meeting, we talked about, okay, we're meeting the minimum requirements. Are we okay with that? Well, we've never been okay with anything that we do with just meeting the minimum. So what we're talking about is what is doable, what is manageable for our teachers, what is also, once again, those things that we're already doing, and it's helping with that vocabulary in helping kids see those connections. Sometimes it's just tweaking a little bit of what we're doing, and just like I said, helping each other along with that. So that's where we are with that right now. That's our plan. That our plan is also linked into this slideshow. But that's kind of where we're at right now with it. Any questions?
How are you gonna measure your success in this program at the end? Are we gonna take tests at the end of the year like we do with basic skills tests, or how we measure this? How do we measure our program?
I mean, from a system-wide basis, I'm not really sure. I mean,
So the state doesn't have anything yet, is I
No.
guess what I'm saying.
no.
We have to, show our work. We have to
Yeah.
show where we're at, but right now, no, the state doesn't. I mean, the state wants to know that we're offering a class, and when we submit our course catalog, they see, oh, Gilbert's doing that, check. I think for us, it's looking at how many opportunities are we giving students, so that when they get to the high school, they're not afraid or intimidated to take a computer science class, that they have an understanding of what that is, so that along the way, starting in preschool, they are exposed to that vocabulary. They're hearing it they're hearing it not just when the B-bots are checked out from the library, which are the little computer things, but they're hearing it oh my gosh, did you know that that's what a computer scientist does? When you do that, when you're solving a math problem, that's something you're just like a computer science. Or a scientist that studies computers, or that's what we want kids to, we don't want kids to narrow themselves to think they can't do something. We want to open that up so that we are giving lots of kids opportunities, kind of like the esports. You know, it's opening another door. And we want to make sure that when we are getting kids ready for jobs that we have no clue what they are. Right? I mean, our kindergartners, who knows what the jobs could be, you know, in 20 years. So that's part of our charge as well.
And I think partially from a high school perspective, like the more, I'm not necessarily measurable from like a, you know, how much are they learning standpoint, but I'm a little bit more interested in how many, you know, can we grow the program? Can we get more kids involved in it and more kids wanting to take the classes so we can add more classes?
Are they just elective at this point?
Yes,
Yeah.
It is just elective.
There are some handful of schools in the state that have made it a graduation requirement, but that's not very common.
Yeah, and that is one of when the state says they're telling us you have to offer it.
Okay.
So at this point, like Troy said, it isn't required, but and I think thinking of all the other realms of what could be part of that program, you know, like you think cybersecurity, you think of there's lots of, you know, some schools have that digital media, which are kids running all of their, like they do podcasts, they do all the sporting events. I mean, it's kids doing that through different courses that different schools will offer, and they might call that a digital media class.
Okay.
The rubric that you got attached is very interesting. Appreciate you sharing that. And it looks like, you know, we are advancing in the areas of materials and curriculum and leadership and the teacher capacity. But you've got sections on partners and community. I mean, do you see opportunity to engage in the actual application throughout the community, or how would you?
And that
rubric.
If you look down, farther down in one of our goals that we had set was, okay, we need to, and we talked about this pre-COVID as a district, we need to create a database of our community members and how people that are willing to partner with us on things, so that then we can use that, we can partner with those people in that for our students. So yes, that is one of the things on our goal sheet.
And just I would love to have a more direct relationship, but I did take the computer science kids to Iowa State and visited their computer science department. This was the first year that we had an opportunity to really do that. Like, you know, first year we were just hoping to get kids in the building. And then we also did have Pat Starr came in. He works for Dan Faust and kind of talked about some of his roles and responsibilities. So I would love to get some more and just tap into that a little bit more, but also if there were other opportunities to get more. There are some schools too that are doing things that are basically like internships for high schoolers, like, you know, local businesses that, you know, want somebody to create a web page or, you know, help them build this app and stuff like that. Like there are programs that are that far advanced along if they're tapping into that stuff already. Yeah, that would be great.
I'd love to see a focus on that. Yeah.
More
Doing real work
Yeah.
before they,
Yeah.
you know, get out.
See manufacturing, or there's lots of labs. I mean, just all kinds of
Mhm.
opportunities for application, I think would be great.
So,
If I may, and that's where I think, you know, other programs that we have already in the building could work together as we do that, like the DECA group, like what I was thinking about is how does this impact that, or the forensic class and all the, there's all the pieces with computer science that are involved in forensics. So it's like, how do we start working toward bringing that all together? So it's not just an isolated class, but it filters out into the high school in other ways as well through the community. So I agree with you, Tyler. It's good. Thank you.
well, and that leads into the last part I was gonna say is just, once again, we wanna open those doors for kids and see how does this fit in no matter what I wanna do. Because in the world we live in, technology is a part of our world. It's gonna be hard to find something where you're not gonna be interacting with technology. So the last quote I had was, computer science is no more about computers than astronomy is about telescopes. When you think about all of the different pieces that we have technology or computer science can be something that I'm not even using technology at that time. But it's kind of a way of thinking. So anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
I don't think I'm on any more committees, so.
Yeah, see, Troy.
Thank you. Okay.
Troy squared.
Yes, next up, I asked Mr. Troy Banning to come and join us this evening and just give us a little communications update. He's got just a few things he's been working on, but also I thought it's always good to enjoy the numbers. So I think that's what he's going to share with us tonight. So welcome, Troy.
Pretty big fan of the department updates page.
Good.
I don't know about you guys. Oh, boy.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good evening. Thank you for having me here tonight. I want to start with saying I was in this office with all of you, I think 6 months ago. When I was formally hired, and I said, thank you for choosing me. And after 6 months, I echo that again. Thank you for choosing me. My job is I get to go into these buildings every day and see all the good things happening and see the smiles and see the successes. And it's just amazing. I think the first month on the job, you can ask the principals. I think the phrase I said to most of them was, this isn't normal. I'd go into their buildings and I'd see what their kids were doing and their teachers were doing. And it's just not stuff that I normally saw in other schools I was in my former job for 20 years. So it's just been fantastic so far. The things I passed out are a couple of things I was going to talk about tonight. The logos pages first. One of the big things I've been working on for maybe the last month is our Gilbert logos, and the keyword I use is consistency with them. When I came here, we had different logos all over, and I know that was because there was a logo change about 3 or 4 years ago, and so that's to be expected. But the big one I saw was colors. There was no consistency. There were different colors throughout all of them. So I wanted to try to figure that out. So I took our original logos to Sign Pro. I've been working with Sign Pro on it. And when I took the various logos we had to them, I think there were 5 different shades of red in all of them. And they were different than what Sign Pros had as Gilbert's red. And so what I had them do was they put together a packet basically of all of our logos in different colors and said, okay, here are some choices that you have. And so I brought them back, and working with Ian Smith and Dr. Trujillo, we came to the conclusion of what we thought Gilbert school colors were. And so then Sign Pros created a whole new batch of logos in those official colors that you can see on that sheet. There are our official colors now. Those have all been updated on our website, the official logos, so that when vendors are wanting our logos to merchandise and apparel and things like that, they have specific guidelines of what our colors are. That's all on our website now, as well as on our website is a request form that all companies need to fill out and get approved before they can use our logo, so that we know the companies that are using our stuff that are making things for us. So it'll be a lot more streamlined and just consistent going forward. That's the hope anyway. Moving on to the other sheet is just some numbers I picked up. Those are numbers over the last 28 days. Social media companies go on kind of 28-day cycles to kind of give you your numbers. With the Facebook numbers, and before I go through the numbers, we use varying social media platforms, and they're all, in my experience, different. Facebook is more parents, grandparents. Instagram is students. That's more the younger generation. Twitter is kind of a mix of them. those are the main three that we try to hit the most. And you see Facebook, almost 14,000 people reached in the last 28 days. 4,600 photos were viewed. Each post is getting as many as 3,500 people are seeing it. And in actuality, those were the numbers from November, and they were actually down over the last couple of months, just because November is kind of a in-between month for activities, and so it was going to be down. And so the numbers the previous months were actually quite a bit higher than that. Twitter, 46,000 impressions last month. The Instagram account was one I created when I started here to try to get more involvement with the students. And I said my goal is 1,000 students or followers by the end of the year. We're already more than halfway there. These are all numbers that were done last week, so they've actually been added to since then. Smug Mug is another one I started here when I took the job. It's our photo website. The photos that I take, they all go into galleries on that. And as I said, this was last week, so this has been added to, but we're now over 2,600 photos on there that parents and students, grandparents can go on, see photos of their children, their grandparents, download them for free. And it's just, we wanted to give them that option to be able to have those photos of their own kids. Flipping Book is a site that I use just for the preview sections that I've done, the fall game on section, the winter game on section, a couple other stories that I've written, that I've designed, we put on there. We've had over 5,000 views of just the things on that site in the first couple months, so that's big. While I'm thinking of that with Game On, I've also been in contact with Sigler. We're trying to figure out if we can print those going forward. We're really trying to get one for the spring season, see if we can get copies of that printed and into a book that we could give to parents, because that was the number one thing I heard from people, is that they loved it, but they wanted a printed copy of it. And I said, that was our goal going forward, is to try to make that happen. And so that's something that we're going to try to do between now and March, when that would come out.
Can you tie in advertising with local companies into that? I mean, to kind of cover the cost of it.
We could. I've talked to Ian about that. That's one possibility. We've thought about the idea of saying if you would want to pre-order, if to see if there would be an interest in pre-ordering to divert some of the cost from that. And so, yeah, those are a couple possibilities. I met with Sigler in November, our representative, to get numbers, but those were bigger scale numbers, what it would be if we made X number of copies. That's when we were kind of tossing around the idea of maybe starting a magazine, a quarterly magazine here. I think Dr. Trio and I have decided that we're not going to go that route. And so I need to meet with them again to see what numbers would look like for a smaller scale to do fewer copies. So yeah, moving on, just website, just give you some updates there. Amy Griffin is our guru on the website, so she knows a lot more about it than I do, but I've been working with Amy quite a bit. We've been working with the company that designed our website, Juicebox. We are really trying to get our front page of our website updated, modernized, and as of last week, they said we should be seeing a mock-up of the changes up to that sometime soon. Amy and I sat down and kind of penciled out what we wanted it to look like. For example, right now, there's been a significant problem with our school, which is with Raccoon River Valley Conference Youth scheduling, getting that to speak to our website. And so consequently, for quite a while, I'm not sure how long, but our daily schedule has not been on our website. We're trying, in the new front, it would be there. We've had meetings with Juicebox and Ian to try to figure out what the problem was with that, to get it, and we think we've got that figured out. But new front page would just be modernized with the videos that we're doing, with the podcasts that we've been doing. Just the stories that we've been writing would be more upfront for people so that they could see it better. Like I said, the schedule. And so that's one thing that we kind of gave Juicebox a list of like 6 priorities that we wanted to work on with them. And that's number 1, that we're hopefully going to see what that could look like sometime in the near future. And piggybacking on that is, we also are working with them to create a new app for us. One that would, it's my understanding that the app we have now that we've had for several years, 5-6 years maybe, I'm not sure on that. It's not designed by Juicebox. It's a different company. And so our website and our app don't really talk to each other real well. And so our thinking is, if we can get this front page done, and then Juicebox can also create us an app that mirrors our website, then they will talk to each other and it will just be a much smoother transition. We've talked to them about, we really want to have that done by February, the app, so that we can start rolling out and let the community members know that it's there. That's the goal. We still need to have more meetings with them to make sure that can happen. But and that would just be similar to the website, where you would have the schedule right there. You could have notifications of the schedule. You could have notifications of new videos, new podcasts, whatever you wanted through this app. Last couple of things I wanted to talk about, just the podcast. Mr. Vic Vanderpool and I started it maybe a month and a half ago. We've got 4 episodes in. It's a lot of fun. I'm enjoying it immensely. I think Vic is too. I think our guests have enjoyed it. Dr. Trio was our first guest, of course. We couldn't have had a different first guest, I don't think. But it's been great, and we've received some really good feedback on it. And I think the numbers are just going to continue to go up on that. Our goal, we're trying to do 2 a month, 1 every other week. It's actually this week we're supposed to do 1, but we're holding it until next week for the break. And the 5th one is just going to be, for example, we're going to do a best of 2022, Gilbert's greatest hits of 2022. And considering I wasn't necessarily around for the first 6 months, I've said in a lot of these podcasts that I get to learn a lot. I think I'm going to get to learn a lot about that one as well. Last 2 things, just newsletter. We've started that as well, back up again. It took us a while to get that going because we worked with Juicebox. Juicebox created, we had them design a new template for us for that. And we're working with a new company that gets it out to the community. We've done 2 staff newsletters. We did our first district newsletter that went out to the community last month. This week, it's 90% done now. So hopefully by the end of this week, we'll get out another newsletter that goes both to staff and community-wide later this week. And then just the last thing is something that we're planning on doing in the future. Dr. Shree and I have talked. We're planning, if she's game, we're planning on doing some live videos, some Facebook Live stuff, maybe some other videos we've talked about. It would be a good way to do some facility updates then, if people have some questions, staff Q&As. They could submit questions about the facilities updates that we could go, and she could answer all the questions. The live videos, I said, make me a little nervous, but if she's game, I guess I'm game too. So that's kind of all I've got on my piece of paper here. Just thank you again. If you guys have any questions, I'll be more than happy to try to give you some answers.
Yeah, this is great. Thanks for starting the position and doing everything you're doing. At the IASB conference last month, I sat in on a breakout on communication.
Mhm.
And the discussion was around not just, the social media presence, but how our district's monitoring that and what's the proactive approach to anything that might be coming out negative or just. So can you speak just briefly on, any feedback that or how are we gathering that if we are, and sort of feedback into the administrative team on positive or negative social media?
Yeah, knock on wood, we haven't had negative yet. At least I haven't. And I'm sure that will come and that's expected. But Dr. Trujillo and I talk daily just about the feedback that I'm seeing, that she's seeing either through social media or emails. And so we're in constant communication about that. I'm monitoring it every hour. It's up on my computer all day. The social media is just so that I can see if there are questions that come in, if there are comments that come in, if there are things that we need to address. And so that's it's just a constant thing throughout the day, and anything that does come up that I'm not sure of, Dr. Shio has been there to answer the questions. I'm new to education, so there are things that I don't know every day that come up, but she and
So you're monitoring just the systems that we are involved with?
yes.
You're not monitoring anything else out there where Gilbert Schools comes up, say somewhere else?
No, I have not, like, like Ames Tribune, that type of stuff. I do see that. I do see some of that outside stuff, but no, I'm not, haven't been going in and monitoring if students are saying stuff, or if parents, a lot of times community members, if it's on Facebook, you don't necessarily have access to that. What people are saying on Facebook, if you're not, following them or friends with them. So those are just things, unless they're directed directly to us, I guess we don't see a lot of that.
So if I may give an example, so we had a parent who gave us some feedback, sent an email related to the website. And it was, really wonderfully written, positive feedback, but it was, well, where's this? And I'm not finding that, and I want more information on this. And it was great. So we had a discussion just about, okay, should we just, pick up the phone and call this person and say, here's the thing, but then Troy created an email back with, oh, here's the link for this and this and this, check these stories out, and we're working on these things, kind of what he talked about, the website. So that's how we're getting feedback in that sense. The other thing I'll say that there's some like Facebook pages, if you will, that are like Gilbert Mom and Dads and Gilbert Iowa or things like that. And what I have seen with those things is that sometimes people pose a question, and what I see is often our own staff will say like, oh, here's what, here's that information if you didn't get that, or check out this link, or so it kind of feels like for me that while we're looking at some of those pieces when they come to us in some of those other forums, it takes a village, right? Then everyone kind of chimes in with that. So that's kind of where we've seen that feedback piece.
Is there any student involvement, like in the photography or videography or anything like that?
There hasn't yet, but I've told teachers and principals that if anybody is interested, the more the merrier, type thing. I've spoken to a couple classes just about the things I do. I've had some students ask me about some of the things I do. So if there would be student involvement, that would be great.
You almost kind of cross in that yearbook though, versus kind of students are very involved in the yearbook.
Yeah.
Together, and you see them around taking pictures. So you kind of have that crossover.
Yep.
Nevada, a friend of mine, his son graduated last year, is actually going to school in Nebraska for media production. For the athletics department, works for Husker Vision now.
Mhm.
And he was doing that over in Nevada, doing the hype videos for for the esports team.
Yeah.
Talk about a cool opportunity for them. So again, I said it earlier with some of that, the more we get the students doing real work in high school, the more they see that as an opportunity in the future. So I'm sure we would support things like that.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And when my background is in newspapers, so I'm incredibly versed in the writing and the photography. The video, I'm not, and I'm sure there are some students over there that know more about video production than I do, so they could probably teach me a few things.
I'm sure there's at least one kid here that's making money on TikTok or something like that.
Guarantee. So yeah, that absolutely.
And that is something that we discussed, like for the podcast. I said, okay, let's bring in some students, figure out where that fits, and have interview some students on the podcast, or as they're thinking about ways to get our students involved. That would be another way too.
Yep.
So good.
You're doing a great job. As a parent, I've noticed a huge shift in position.
Oh, thank you.
So,
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're killing it, Troy. You're doing awesome.
yeah.
So keep it up.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Troy.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, thank you, Brent. Our Director of Grounds, Brent Randolph, is here to give us a well update, just to give a little bit of history here. if you recall, we receive water from the city of Gilbert. And that bill is very, very high and has gone up significantly over the last 4 to 5 years. And well over $100,000, just to put that out there. And so through our work together, the conversation has been, should we build a well? And what would that look like saving us money? And are there other options? So I put Brent on that to say, okay, where are we on what would a well look like? What would that cost us? And then he had a couple of ideas. What's our city cost of water? And then I believe the third one is to talk to Zinnia and see what that looks like. So he's here to give an update and answer any questions you may have about this. And really, for me, at the end of this, it's the idea of what direction would you like to see us go next? Because there's some options on the table. So thank you for being here, Brett.
Troy, good thing you got to talk about a fun subject. Okay, so I know Jeff, you got the email with the revised quote. Did the rest of you guys get the quote for the well? Okay, so I'll just kind of run through the costs. So they do a 6-inch test hole to examine like the sand and gravel, and that's pretty much a set cost of $3,500. And then they have directional drilling, which is going from where we're outside city limits and drilling towards the shed, which is a cost of $10,160, which would be another set cost. And then they have a per well estimate for like the well itself, so the case well drilled. And that's an estimated cost of $12,010. And then the water system, like the pump and the motor, and that's an estimated cost per well of $20,247. So the per well cost would be about $32,000 plus the directional drilling and the test analysis. And they were figuring on like 3 wells. So our total cost would be about $110,000. So that obviously would be an upfront cost that we'd have to put forth, whereas, the city water it's just generating costs over time. The other con I see with the well is, anybody knows you get well water, it's got a lot of iron in it. So if your irrigation system isn't necessarily spraying exactly where it's supposed to spray, and it sprays on the fence or it sprays on the limestone or the concrete, you're gonna get that orange tint. And then there's also the cost to plumbing inside the building to hook up to our system. So there's still some miscellaneous costs that we would have to put forth to do that.
What would be plumbed in, what would be plumbed into the building for?
Well, so the directional drilling gets it to the building, and then we'd have to have a plumber come in and plumb it from the system itself to the irrigation hookup.
But this isn't, this is non-potable water, right?
Right.
Or is it? So why do we need it to go to the building? Or I'm not understanding.
Pump house.
The building is the pump house.
Oh, okay.
Where my irrigation controller and everything's at.
So only the irrigation would be on the well.
Right, yeah,
Correct. Not the school.
yeah, so by building, I mean the new athletic shed down by baseball, softball. So yes, it would be non-potable water only. Which actually, where we have a hookup for water for like watering the mounds and stuff by a watering can, that's technically non-potable too, because it goes through the pump first. So that's one option. The other option is to just continue doing what we're doing, just getting water from the city. The cost might go down a little bit, but it doesn't look like it's gonna go down for a while. And I believe I think Gail and I figured it was around like $76,000 is what we spent on water last year. Was that 22 or 21, Gail?
that would, we would have done a range of 21, 22, so it couldn't have been 22.
Yeah, how far can you pull back data on our water bills?
Oh, I can go clear back to 2015,
You could,
but what I have is what we paid. I don't have the detail of
That's
like
I would just say pay
meters and things
That's
like
fine.
that. What we paid,
for my month, we could have it just pretty much spreadsheeted out back to 15, what we paid, and then kind of show it in a chart of some sort.
Do we need 3 pumps or can we build, do storage?
So
Like Iowa State did
the problem, the reason why we need 3 pumps is to get the gallons per minute I need to get it out to the far lying areas of like baseball out in the outfield.
So it's not 3 wells, it's.
Yeah, no, it's 3 wells, to get the number of gallons that I need to get it to there. Because I'm using, every night that I water, I'm using about 19,000 gallons. So if I don't have the well capacity to get 19,000 gallons, then I can't water, everything. So that's why they suggested 3 wells. Now, if they drill down and they find just gobs and gobs of water and they don't need 3 wells, then, we just stick with 1 or 2.
Because 19,000 gallons is a relatively small pond. I mean, the size of this room or less. Is that an option we can look at to avoid an extra $60,000 in pumps and wells?
If you have a place to put a pond. Cause then you're doing excavation processes and you'd have to put a fence around it. For safety.
Because there's an ongoing cost with the wells and the pumps too, because that's machinery that'll go bad and not that there isn't ongoing with the pond. I just know when Iowa State solved this problem, they used a pond, did, a couple million gallon pond. For the intramural fields that they paved over after a year or 2.
Well, if I may, you had asked about the costs. I have it here if you wanna just, so this isn't just for the irrigation, this is for our whole entire bill. So in 18-19, our bill was 25,000, around 25,000.
For what?
For water, just for city water. Okay.
Water/sewer, or, right, yeah.
19-20, it went from 25 up to 28. Okay. 20 to 21, we then went from 28 to 89,000. Okay. And then from 21 to 22, we went to 180,000. So going back from 18-19 was 25,000 and 21-22, it's 180,000. Now we understand we have increased our amount that we need because of our things we've added, but the usage doesn't equate to what
We know for sure that the rate was tripled.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
I mean,
that's,
just
That was
flat-
at 28 to 89.
The flat rate was
Yeah.
tripled.
And then-
But we're averaging $38,000 right now a month.
That's,
We had 48,000 last month, and that's because they don't come out and read a meter every month. You would think for 40-some thousand dollars, they could send a guy out, and I don't know that. And then, so they said they were catching up because they didn't get an exact reading the months before. And so I thought this month would be much better. Now it's 38,000 again. So like I told Andrew this afternoon, something's got to give on this. Either we have to be okay paying $40,000 a month in water, and I've got to get over it. Or we could dig one well, like I told you, or 2 wells, and we could put a different circulator on what areas we water at a time. So I mean, there's different things we can do. And you're right, I mean, the water coming out, or whoever said the water coming out of the grounds, got iron in it, got a ton of iron in it. We just got to be smart in how you do it. We just got to decide as a board, we're okay paying $500,000 a year for water and be done with it, and I'm good with that. Or we need to solve the problem because we're not even in the middle of summer, water in the fields, and it's $40,000.
$500,000 a year when you build on water treatment plant. Send it back.
I mean,
Gilbert don't want to pay less.
So I think that, I think we're all in agreement, we need to do something. That's not changed. The question is, what are our options?
right.
Right? And the rate's gone up threefold, and I don't think that's gonna change, right? My question would be, if we did a well to service for non-potable, for the outside, how much of this current water and sewage usage would that carve in half of it? Do we have an estimate of how much that would carve out? Because we'll still have potable water and sewage to pay for.
Right.
Yeah, but we're not watering outside right now, it's $38,000. Right, today, this last month, so what?
So
they
that
could-
that would suggest that that's all potable,
Right.
which a well's not gonna address.
Right, but what's it gonna be in the summertime?
But
Oh,
I guess my
double.
point
I'm
is,
gonna
if
think
I
we're
know what
at
you're
40,000 and it's all potable, then digging a well's not gonna touch that.
Right.
No, but what's it gonna be? What worries me is when we go to start watering outdoors again.
Well,
So when we get that by, basically, we have a year, when we have a comparable year of usage for our bills. And then go back and see how much and we get that meter of just the usage of the fields, because that's ultimately what it
are we metering that separately?
has a separate.
The
Yeah,
It
outdoor-
is, because we're not
The
paying.
the three
sewer on it.
fields are metered.
Yeah,
we can
so
run
just
that.
do we know that then.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that. I think
Yeah,
that
yeah,
helps.
yeah.
which
Run that.
the city should be able to tell us what meter that is and what the reading is for that every month. How
Can
many
we
gallons.
request somebody from the city to come to one of our meetings? Is
Yes.
that,
Or,
is that,
two of us go there.
Well, and that might be another, we're talking about these three options here, but another option, and I think you've mentioned it previously, is that. A meeting with the city to say,
Yep.
when you talk about tripling, it's like, we need to maybe go back to the city and say. I sent a letter to the city that we were having this conversation, so they are aware of it. To go back to the city to say, okay. What if we weren't to do this so that it impacts us in a positive way for all the water? We stayed with the city, is there a better?
Is there a 5-year, 10-year
Fee
plan where it drops
That we
back
could
down?
be involved in, that wouldn't hit our budget as significantly as it has.
You can't spend that much on water.
no,
And, you
We'll-
know-
We'll hire a guy to drive a semi and we'll truck it in from Ames at the bulk rate for that.
cheaper.
Well,
And I mean, Jeff, you hit the nail on the head when you said about not getting the correct readings, because we had that, we actually got credit of $16,000 on water because they estimated that meeting, because they could not get a correct reading. So we gave the water guy a key to that building. So if he can't get a correct reading, he can go in there and manually read it.
I think instead of having someone come here, I would like to get in front of the whole council. I mean, that's right. We need to do a meeting, either a joint meeting together or a couple of us. And Dr. Trujillo goes there and just presents our data, our numbers, our dollars, and say, guys, we can't, gals, we can't do this any longer. And then go from there.
And I think having the numbers, both usage and dollars.
Yeah, I do so.
Yeah.
And if we can break it out for what would be external or
Mhm.
non-potable. and
That's a good
potable.
Yeah. Cause I'd like to have the whole council there, or either in the room with all of us, or just with them, and then we can come back and report, or whoever decides to go there can report. But then also talk about the well, I mean, we have all the data, with well costs and rates and what we're paying, and just talk through it all.
Because it's
I think
not
that's the
hard
next
to
step.
determine to dig a well when we're paying this kind of money.
Nah.
If, like Tyler says, so you gotta offset the money, you gotta offset the gallons.
Which we should be able to figure all that out pretty quick.
Did you have a third option?
So the third option, which is, it's still kind of a long shot right now,
Right.
is to get water from Xenia.
Guess we can-
And why it's a long shot is because currently they have a line on 170th, which is this road here, and the 180th, but those are 2.5-inch lines, which don't provide enough gallons per minute to get what we need. But there's a 6-inch line on Highway 69.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the city's not gonna let the city
No.
come in.
Right, so that's why it's a long shot, but I did talk to Xenia and they're figuring out like infrastructure costs.
And I don't think that's just.
I don't think the city will let you.
Yeah.
That's fine. I think you look at all the options and give them all to us. And then I think you guys go to the board since I'm leaving. And sorry. But I just, whatever you guys decide, I'm fine with, but I don't want to get upset about the water bill. We only do policy and spending. I always say that. You know, spending $40,000 or $1,000 on a water bill is just irresponsible in my mind.
And I think everybody's in agreement with that.
I know, like I told Andy tonight or this afternoon, I either gotta be done with it or live with it, so. You know. But I think we're working on it.
So I like the annual, if we could get that,
Mhm.
you know, you did the dollars, if there's a way to split out the usage so that we know potable, non-potable, then we got the information.
You got it. We can start to put all these numbers together.
And Gail, I'll work with you on getting the city to narrow down just that irrigation meter too, because they would be able to tell us which meter is which.
Christine will work with the city and trying to figure out timeframe,
Yes.
maybe either do a joint meeting together or
Yes.
go there. So.
Yes, I'll follow up. We'll get those numbers ironed out, and then I'll follow up with the city to see what works for everybody, and we can sit down from there, so.
So just one last question, so we're talking about the new high school facilities primarily, what about the existing? I mean, there's irrigation that goes on out here too, or would that just, that's not factored into what?
That unfortunately would have to stay with city because there's no close way that I can put at a well.
Outside of city limits,
Right.
got it.
You know, that's where we're even having this conversation is because we have basically 14 acres. That way, that's not inside city limits. So, unfortunately, that's why, you know, intermediate field, these two fields over here and the practice field north of the high school.
Yeah.
Those are all would have to stay on potable water.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, well, I want to thank Brent for, working on this project and being here tonight, and we'll work on it from here.
Thanks, Brian.
And
Thank you.
we'll bring it back. So, thank you, Brent.
Am I able to sneak out to go to the?
Yes,
It's a cut and pay.
In half.
Don't forget your holiday joy there in front of you. That's all. Thank you.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
Okay, next topic, quick department updates report. You guys saw the reports in there from all the departments. Any questions, comments on that report? All right, moving along. Board reports. First thing, we have the EMC Insurance Safety Group report for 2022. I'll just summarize that really quick. EMC Insurance is who we have our insurance program through for Gilbert schools. They insure 97% of the schools in the state.
Yeah.
Last year overall was another rough year for the program with regards to claims, both property and liability claims. So I would expect probably another rate increase this next year. The one thing where it pertains to Gilbert, I'm just going to point out, if you guys can pull up, Gail, throw it, it's a page, keep going. Right to that one, okay, go back up. Yeah, can you move that down a little bit to show the slide and the payments? Here's where, we've talked about this before. Gilbert has had a few claims in the past with regards to litigation costs. Scroll down just a little bit more. The total litigation costs for the entire state were 1.2 million. We are an outlier because our litigation costs were a pretty good percentage of that for one school out of 320. So just wanted to point that out briefly that our defense costs, litigation costs are much higher than the state average.
So these are state numbers and what
Total
you're saying.
Yeah, so like right there, the orange, that 1.2 million.
Yeah.
This is total defense costs as a whole state.
Yep.
And again, we've had discussions in the past, Tyler, which Josh,
One claim. I think that would be the appropriate
yes,
between, and would this include the area education as well?
no, this is, take that back. Yes, it does.
Heartland
They
enter?
do. Heartland is in these numbers, same company.
They do, but
I think they're part of the same program.
they are, but isn't this just Gilbert numbers?
No,
No.
this is
This
not
is-
Gilbert. This is the whole program.
Okay,
That, let me, well, here, 320 plus AEA, community
Okay, so the
colleges. It's all
AEA was
down.
there. My understanding when we reviewed this for one individual was closer to $250,000.
You are exactly correct.
So we're $250,000 out of one, two.
We're 1/5 of the state's
Well,
entire defense.
I will,
Yeah.
so that, but that 250,000 goes back a couple of years, so you gotta kind of throw in
Okay,
2020 and maybe a little bit of 19, but even still, you're over 10% roughly of the total cost of the entire program,
from one individual.
one individual. So I just wanted to point that out because I thought it was very interesting that the defense cost was that low with regards to the program and how high ours is. So,
So their premium, if I read this right, Andy,
Mhm.
is 64 million in revenue,
66 million,
right? And their losses are,
52 million.
so that's not a bad deal for EIMC though, is it? And insurance
In
company?
insurance world, yes, it is. They're not with expenses and reinsurance and everything else, they're losing money per their data. So in normal dollars, yes, but the expense ratio on these are typically around 33% or so. And they're running, that's an 80% loss ratio, so they're losing money out of the chute on this. So they're gonna take rate. Now, again, this year is a lot better than last year. Because of derecho, it really hit it hard.
Yeah.
But I'll also say that West Des Moines hailstorm, that hit West Des Moines schools really, really hard. I'm hearing 15 to 20 million was paid out on that one. So. But again, the program, I said, it's a great program. They do all this, they do majority of the schools in the state. But just to get, it's just an overview of the entire program, not just Gilbert, but I just thought it was interesting to see that data, to know what our history is here.
And that's also impacting our premiums specifically.
You got it exactly. Mhm.
Okay.
So, anything else on that? Sorry, I was an insurance tangent for a second. Next item is we need to vote for a director for District 5 for the open seat. I will say, I met Mary Poulter down at the convention this last week. Chad was not there, but Mary was there and she spoke. Chad is from Southeast Polk, I believe. And Mary is from Colfax Mingo. I was very impressed by Mary. She has a great background. She's been doing this a while. And I guess if you're asking for my recommendation, I would recommend Mary Poulter for the seat. But if anybody has any other comments, I'd be willing to listen.
This is a seat she currently holds already, is that correct?
No, I don't think Mary holds this one now. I can't remember who holds it. I think it's new. Cause she's,
Yeah, I think that's right. I read
Yeah.
that too, yeah.
I think they're both running for an open position.
Just looking through the little info we had on them, that was my thought as well. She seems to have a pretty good understanding of what we need, probably from a smaller district too. So might have a pulse on.
She has been active, that's for sure, for a number of years. So I would support that.
Yeah.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second, further discussion? All those in favor of voting for Mary Poulter?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. All right, now we're on to some old business. We've got the second reading of a whole lot of policies there in this 200, 300, and 400 series. I guess they're all in your notes. I'll just kind of open it up for discussion. I went.
Last time we were talking about, that we wanted, the board was interested in having a student representative. So we made note that, that we need to, however, make that known. That, and then the other one was, the facility planning charter, I marked that on, just a, I don't remember exactly, but, it was a recommendation to remove it and just have it be some document. The committee is set up and that.
Yeah, I think some of those were my comments. So on the, back to the student representative, I think it's a great idea. If it's gonna be in our policy, we need to do it.
Absolutely.
So I don't know what you would want to come back with a recommendation, or if you have an idea of how to nominate somebody.
It's the student council.
President.
That's what I was gonna reach out, yeah, exactly, to student council or DECA, either one, to see and work with City Bassett on who and how, what that would look like, so.
I mean, I think it'd be great. I'm sitting right up here.
Yeah.
Love it.
They can probably get silver cord hours for it or something, so. Which they're always trying to get, so that might be a way to do it.
Yeah, I think it'd be great as well.
And then the comments on the facilities charter was just, there's a lot of detail in there, which probably not necessary for policy, so I think you recommended making an appendix or
Yeah.
just referring to it.
Okay.
I'll move to approve and waive the third reading.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Where'd that second?
Sure.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Right, motion passed. And remind me again, Gail, what the second grouping of this?
The first grouping is, just to review. And the second, excuse me,
There's two sections on this one. We've got,
the first one is reviewed. And the second is
revised, okay, so
The second group, there were some revisions of some kind,
interchanges, yeah.
whether it was removed or just a revision of some kind. So that's why I separated it out, and that's why I also went into more detail about what the policy title was.
So for example, in some of the revised, it might have even been as simple as. They had a reference policy at the bottom, and now that's, we removed that or added one or something like that. Everything was really, really minor. There wasn't, if there was something that I thought, oh, we're adding a whole paragraph or a whole sentence or taking that out, you know, we would bring that to you individually and highlight that. So it was very minor in what was being offered, but it was all aligned with what we are getting from ISB. I was gonna say
It
ISB.
changed our mark in yellow.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we're aligned, at least if you were to pass this, then all of, we're through the 400s. Where we're all aligned now with ISB, and then after the break, I'll bring back the others. So that we can be all caught up and then start again.
I would recommend Christine, kind of bringing back that maybe monthly policy committee meeting.
Absolutely.
And
That's
just
on
that way
the
we can
list.
have the committee kind of come and just maybe give us some background quick and make
Yes.
recommendations and.
And it's going to continue, just so you're aware, to get easier, you know, as we migrate from one system into a new system. Gail will be bringing that to us. We're looking at going with a company that'll help us do that with all of our board meetings and whatnot. It's gonna get easier. So we won't have the piles of policy that we're trying to get through and then passing them around and things like that. And so I remember you saying that last month, and we will bring that policy committee back together because we could use help on that. That would be great.
That would be good too for Melissa being just to
Yeah.
kind of see the policies and everything else, so. Anything else on the second revised group of policies?
Move to approve and waive third reading.
We have a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Gail, I'm not even gonna try to explain these next three, so I'm gonna
Okay.
turn it over to you.
We had the SPRC MSA for increased enrollment and increased regular residents and increased enrollment for open enrollment out and for ELL fifth year. So we approved all except the open enrolled out because we're like, Tyler said, this isn't right. And I'm like, ooh, that's right. Let me reach out to him. And so I reached out to him and then received a response. I think I kind of stumped them a little bit, apparently, because it did make sense. I was trying to get it to calculate based on, but apparently there's a calculation behind that, he tried to explain to me, and I forwarded that shortly after the last meeting. He suggested, because the minutes have to go to the SPRC, that we redo and approve them all at the same time.
Okay.
So we did prior approve 2 of 3, but with the change, when I spoke to Scott Dreyer, the SPRC, the request for the open enrollment out calculation. If there's things, the calculation behind the scenes, so it's not a clear calculation of. So
It's just ever be easy. Yeah, seriously, we just, you put the numbers in, here's a calculation, boom, and it's done.
8
times 7.
It's not, right?
Yeah,
So I
hurt my brain when I read it all.
clarifications, and they requested we bring them and have one.
Yep.
Approve them all 3 again, because I have to submit it to the state.
So what we realize is they really aren't screwing us, it's, we should just approve it.
The information is the it would be letter
Yeah. Oh, I read that thing 10 times. and
See,
it's
the information and the dollar amounts are correct.
Okay,
Now, how we got to that dollar amount is it's from the state.
we trust
And
them.
it is correct, so.
Yeah.
From the government.
All right, so we're gonna consider approval to authorize the district's administration to submit a request to the school budget review committee for a modified supplemental award MSA of $177,912 due to an increase of certified enrollment from the past year.
Which that does make sense.
Yes.
Have increased the number.
So moved.
Second. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Next one, consider approval to authorize the district's administration to submit a request for the school budget review committee for a modified supplemental amount of $57,816 due to an increased enrollment out from the prior
And
year.
that is correct information.
So moved.
Second. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Consider approval to authorize district's administration to submit a request to the school budget review committee for a modified supplemental amount of $9,340 related to the English language learning program for students who have exceeded 5 years of waiting that are included in the fall 2022 certified enrollment headcount. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Very much.
Thank you, Gail.
Okay, so, I just wanted to bring attention, I put a document on your desk. I ran across this and I thought it was just great information.
I love it. I love it.
Help as a guide, we will be starting the budget process after the first year. So as we go through that, I think this will be very helpful as a reminder, informational purposes. Great document, I thought you guys can copy that. And so now what I'm gonna do now is, at our annual meeting, we, the board has to approve the fiscal year 22 certified annual report. The special ed supplement, certified annual report is known as CAR. SES, the special ed supplement. And the transportation, the annual transportation report known as the ATR. And then we also, the board approves and recognizes the amounts of the dollar amount in each of our bank accounts as of June 30th. So the board at the annual meeting has to approve the June 30th business. And that's part of the, so in the documents, I have the bank accounts that we use, Avela, these are different bank accounts, and this is the cash that was in each account as a, and this is audited now, because we have the audit. And we use EMA as a financial investment firm. And that would be the dollar amounts at June 30th so those with the cash on hand and the deposits for us. So then what I decided is, instead of having you, and you're familiar if you've been on the board with this, I've included the detailed CAR, the SES, and the ATR. But I have included a summary, so you didn't have to go through, and they're so hard to get a good readable copy. So basically, I pulled out the information that I thought would be important for you to look at and to see, okay, basically, what's the important information on comparable. And so basically revenues, expenses for each fund, revenues, expenses, and the ending fund balance compared to the previous year. How do we, how does that compare? So for a general fund, revenue was the difference, it was an increase. The expenditures, there was an increase, but overall, the ending fund balance, we had an increase of $35,000. So basically revenues, expense, and then you have to add that to beginning fund balance and your difference in the ending fund balance. There was a difference of an increase of $35,000 just for general fund. And then I use that same for 20, the different funds going across, which the handout I gave you tonight explains a little bit more detail about all those. So the exciting one is, the nutrition fund. That was exciting. The debt service, that's just basically a flow through for our debt, to manage our debt and pay our debt. And we have, in the past, last year we refinanced and there was a lot of activity in there. Capital projects is only available when we are doing a project. So last year you're seeing, we finished in 22 and 21, we're still have a little bit more activity going in there. So that is the difference of we actually zeroed out on June 30th, the capital project. So the year before we had a negative balance and we cleaned that up. So that was, so you didn't have to dive deep into the detail of CAR. I just pulled out basically the financial piece, revenues, expenditures, and the ending fund balance of each fund. So then the other highlight, and we've seen this before because we asked for a modified allowable growth, the difference of our special ed, the SES basically. And this is the financial piece of that SES. And so the revenue increased 288,000, and so all in all that we had a real big, I see it as a big turnaround on our ending fund balance compared to the previous year, which we had discussed that earlier in the year. And then there's some transportation, the transportation report. I did the same thing. It was just easier to use the actual report. So I just hand wrote the previous year and just showed the difference. My takeaway from this is just the fuel cost alone was a lot more than the previous year. And I was trying to remember, because the fiscal year is July 1 to June 30th. When did this big fuel, what I was trying to remember, the increased fuel cost, was it mainly in like the last 6 months? Or was it the last 3? I'm not sure what fuel.
I know what Jeff's gonna say, so I was waiting for him to say it.
I can tell you, I drove a U-Haul down to Texas in July, and that wasn't good timing.
Yeah,
For gas.
yeah, it's been there for a little bit.
Probably in November.
It's not just-
So anyway, that's the summary of the certified FPF and the annual, the reports that you need to approve at the annual board meeting. And it's just in a summary review. And if you want to review the full documents and to ask me questions, I'm open to any questions at any time. Just email me or something. But
Good job, Gail.
Yeah.
I like the summaries.
the financials for the current month, actually November. Just a few highlights, I won't dive deeply into this. But let's look at the. We are still lagging on the collection of for the month, it was not bad. But if you see at the year to date, we're a little lagging, still trying to recoup from October collections that was behind in the year to date. That will level out, I'm assuming, as we go forward. People apparently are taking time to pay their taxes, I'm thinking. I don't know, but we get what we get a month after the collections. And then the other area is the state foundation aid is just a reporting. I booked the ADA flow through, and that's what's showing up in the negative in October, and it's a timing thing. That will level out. And the other red areas for state and federal grants and reimbursements, I was just able to submit claims. We have to submit claims and then they reimburse us. So the state, the DE is really behind on processing claims for reimbursement. So we should see some more revenue in the state and federal portion of this in January and February. And it'll be more timely on that. So on the expense side, overall, we are running ahead on our expense by $308,000 year to date. Just a couple line items of we're running a little bit higher than normal for business and central admin, and a little bit higher on plant and operational, I think is that line. Yes, 139 second operational, and we're not even plant operation. I can't pinpoint any specific thing because I would say snow removal, but it's not snow removal. So I'm going to say it might be utilities.
The water in there.
Water.
Yeah. Utilities. But this is our.
Did you want to talk about water?
No.
I'm trying to think of, this would be. Last year, did we have a full year? Yeah, we did have a full year, but water and I think just general operating expenses are running higher. We all know our high utilities are higher than they were a year ago. So, but of course we budgeted more, so maybe we'll have a good winter.
Yeah, maybe.
So, and then the other few things. Our cash is all good. Oh, just want to let you know that I think I put an N here. The oh yes, so I just want to let you know that on the investments, we have general fund. I've invested a little over $2 million in general fund and a little over $2 million in the local option. And we're receiving about a 3.5% interest rate on that.
Where'd you get that?
That's our ISDIT. We are pretty limited. Our capabilities of investing is very, very limited. So this is not, and it increases daily. It's increasing every day. So our general, our checking account, we get a 0.5.
Yeah.
And so this we can still operate, and I have a good cash flow with just doing this. So that will help and create more revenue for the capital projects. And then overall activity, capital activity and nutrition. I don't have anything different than what we've I've reported in the last couple of months on those. There weren't a lot of capital expenses compared to others. I think capital expenses were when you start up, it's kind of like a startup cost on projects and things. We've kind of leveled out, but capital projects, I did meet with Brent and Dan, and they'll be getting some budget information to let me know what the projects to come are and schedule those of summer projects.
And that's based on our de novo report that they'll be utilizing to make that decision.
Projects, there's not cut and dry, you know, and they're in the summer, which happens to be by fiscal year. So it's like, they kind of flow into different, in multiple years. And then they just plan, they'll do a priority list of what they see there will be the summer projects, and give me some costs on that. Other than that, I don't have any more for financial.
Thank you very, very much, Gail. Any questions for Gail? All right, moving along, consent agenda. Anything need to be pulled, discussed?
C, I just discussed that. D is an annual meeting, item. And other than that, I think that's, D is just an additional for the annual.
And under personnel, it's not in there, but I just want everyone to be aware that we have posted for the director of transportation that is posted currently. So that process is in place, and we've had some people, a good number of people apply already. So hopefully in a few months or a month or so, we'll be bringing that back to you.
We have a motion on the consent agenda.
Well moved.
We have a second.
Yeah.
First was Jeff, second was Josh. Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Consent agenda passed. Calendar, Gail sent an email out today. We're looking at doing a board retreat on a Saturday sometime in January. So if you can respond to her on that with some dates to get that kind of rolling, that would be awesome. The next board meeting, regular board meeting is January 16th at 6 p.m.
And I believe that's gonna be at the middle school, but.
Middle school, okay.
Check your,
We'll let you know,
and the February 13th will be at elementary.
elementary. Update on long range planning. Will we have that in the next January 16th meeting?
The January 16th meeting will be the RSP group will be here.
Perfect.
To give their report. I spoke with them, and so we'll have that, and I need to follow up with CMBA to see what's their next piece. They should
Okay.
join us as well that night, I would think, but I haven't confirmed that with them.
Okay.
So, but for sure, RSP is on it's on their calendar to be here that night,
What night? I missed that.
January 16th.
Next regular board meeting. So. Do I have anything else on the calendar? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Right.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned.